Now, one of our viewers asked this question. Could you do a video describing how and when to use mediums for oil painting as you work from thin to thick? And then she goes on to say when to use different mediums such as liquid versus Alkyd or solvent-free gel and all that kind of stuff. You'll be surprised at just how many mediums are available. No wonder we're confused. So I don't wonder that we're confused about the whole business of mediums and this fat to lean and lean, all this kind of stuff, with all the stuff that's available for us just to get us to buy it. Gamblin alone has 12 different variations, so we can see here just in this picture I took from their website. Winsor Newton has about 40 different versions. So first of all, I think the best thing to do is to clarify the difference between solvent, oil, and alkyd. Those three ingredients that end up being a part of different mediums or playing different roles. First of all, solvent. Now, Gamsol and Permalba both make this solvent. It's nothing in the world except mineral spirits. It's an odorless, refined mineral spirits. I say terpenoid. I think it's Permalba that makes the terpenoid. Terpenoid and Gamsol. Those two things are solvents, as is turpentine. They're all solvents. Now what that means as far as solvent goes, they thin the paint, but they also destroy its integrity. But I want you to get that straight first of all before I go into this. Solvent. Then there's the oil. And then we have all kinds of oils that are available. This is the refined linseed oil. Linseed oil is in most oil paints. It's the binder for most oil paints, although there are other oils used in some oil paints. But it's the most common. But then we have also poppy oil, which is a very slow drying oil, safflower oil, which is very slow drying oil, walnut oil, which hardly wants to dry at all kinds of oils, but they are oils, and that's very important because oil equals fat. Now going back, oil equals fat, solvent equals thin. So if we go there from the whole fat to lean, lean, thin, oil, fat. So if you keep those two things in your mind, you shouldn't have a whole lot of problems knowing what goes first, because if you're painting fat over lean, lean is going to have more solvent in it. Then there'll be no solvent, and the more oil you add to it, the fatter it becomes. Lean to fat, fat over lean. But then there's another thing that enters into the whole thing, and that is alkyds. Alkyds are made for speeding up drying. The liquid is an alkyd, as is all these things she mentioned here, made by Gamblin. Alkyd is an alkyd. Solvent-free gel has an alkyd in it, and so on and so on and so on. So if it has an alkyd in it, it's going to dry very fast. Well, an alkyd would not be the same as an oil. So if it has alkyd in it, you want to be careful that the faster drying is underneath a slower drying paint that has more oil in it. Now, I know that all can be confusing, but if you'll look at the labels on all these mediums and combinations that you find, you'll see that they will have, to some degree or another, proportions of some, maybe in some cases they'll have some solvent in them. In some cases they'll have some oil in them. Some cases they'll have some alkyd in them. And you might even find they'll have a little varnish in them. Some of them have a little Damar varnish, which is even another medium, but it's so rare to use these days, I didn't bring it into the equation. Now I'll do just a very small little demonstration here for you to show you how these things affect paint. First of all, paint as it comes out of the tube is perfect. Now I was told this by a conservator, a very highly respected conservator who whose entire career was built on conserving paintings. He knew about archival principles in painting. And he said to me that whenever you start adding a medium to the oil as it comes out of the tube, you start destroying the paint's integrity. So as it is in that tube, it's already perfect. Now, the only time you need to add anything to it is if you need it a little thinner. If the tube sits for a while and it gets too stiff, you need to add a little oil into it. Or if you want it to dry a little faster. So let's look at what these things will actually do. Now, first of all, solvent. Here's some Gamsol. You can't see it's very runny. It is. It's a solvent. And if I reach in for a little bit of transparent oxide red, and you see on my palette there, see how thin? If I paint it here, if I paint a little stroke of the transparent oxide there, you see it's almost like watercolor by adding the solvent to it. Now, we will often use paint plus solvent on our first layer when we're blocking in, we're doing the preliminary drawing of the painting, we're blocking in the painting, getting things set. That is very, very, very lean. Now, the paint without anything added to it, let's just bring that right over here. And this is straight out of the tube without anything added, transparent oxide red, and you can see you get this very rich layer. Now, if we add a little bit of oil to that, then we will make it fatter. So let's take just a little bit of linseed oil, and I'm just going to put a little drop of linseed oil right here on the palette. There we go. With the palette being tilted, it's going to run down. That doesn't matter. This is the fat. Now, if I reach into that linseed oil with my brush and then I pull it into the paint, that makes it very fat. And then, but you can see it goes on nice and transparent like this. So this is fat. This is not as fat as this is, but this is fatter than this because this has the oil, more oil in it. This has well, it has more solvent than oil. So we have lean, a little fatter, and then very, very fat. So fat over lean has to do with the drying. The more oil, just keep that in mind and you'll be able to work that principle without any problem. The more oil it has in it, the fatter it is. But these mediums that have the alkyd added to them cancels all that out. So if you're going to use a medium like liquid or Alkyd or any of those that have the faster drying in it, maybe just stick to that all the way through, and you'll be sure then that you don't have to worry about the fat over lean. Otherwise, what might happen, you see, oil paint does not evaporate like watercolor does or like acrylics do. Oil paint oxidizes. Well, what happens is when the oxygen hits that surface, it may feel, the surface of the paint as it's on the painting, it may feel like it's dry, but what's underneath there is still wet. And so if you put, then you put another coat over that that's going to dry, as that part that's underneath begins to oxidize, it may cause cracking. So that's the reason we're careful about the fat over lean principle. That's the reason the fat over lean principle is, has been taught to us as a very important part of oil painting. But if you use the alkyd medium or any medium like that that is made for the speeding up of drying, stick with that one. There's no reason to be adding other things to it because it's the liquid part. You want to get the paint a little looser. That's what you want. So if you want that plus speeding up the drying, just use that one medium all the way through, and then you know you'll be safe. Be sure to view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianeMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.